Let me preface this by saying I have a severe case of arachnophobia. Seriously, even those tiny ones scare the shit out of me. If I spot a spider in my room, any room, you can bet your ass I'll be the first to leave it. So it's God's greatest joke that this should be happening to me. The guy who regularly dissolves into tears over a fucking daddy long legs in the sink. Just a few days back, I ran into a friend of mine on my way to the corner shop, so naturally I was forced to stop and make small talk. When I glanced down at my feet while I was racking my brain for an excuse to leave, I saw these long hairy legs sticking out from under my Reebok, twitching meekly. Now when I say those legs were long, I don't mean, hey, that spider's got pretty long legs. Long. I mean, holy fucking shit, look how long that spider legs are. Long. I'm not exaggerating when I say that its leg span could easily have covered a small car's wheel from end to end. Staring down in utter revulsion, not daring to remove my foot from what I imagined to have been a very gruesome scene, some part of me noted that this monster had 10 legs in place of 8. Without looking back, I turned tail and sprinted all the way back down the street to my house. At the front door, I kicked the offending shoe off into the street before slamming it shut. I backed up to the sofa, shuddering as phantom spiders crawled around under my shirt. The rest of that evening was spent on my laptop trying to find the species that the spider belonged to while simultaneously avoiding the images tab. I've seen enough spiders already, thanks. As expected, my efforts uncovered nothing, and so I retired to bed for the night feeling very confused and very uncomfortable. Sometime during the night, I awoke to the faint sound of scuttling in the darkness. Blinking sleep from my eyes, I rolled over and flicked on the bedside lamp. As warm light washed over the cramped bedroom, my blissful ignorance shattered into oblivion. On the bedside table, so close to the lamp I almost touched it, sat a huge 10-legged spider. I was unable to move, unable to think, unable to breathe, as I looked at its face. Set into the front of its dark, fat body were a pair of brown eyes, human eyes. They were heavily bloodshot and didn't appear to have eyelids, just big, round, and boring deep into mine. It was an abomination, the stuff of nightmares even for someone without my crippling fear of spiders. Whenever my head moved, its eyes would swivel unblinking to track mine. Something about knowing that it was watching freaked me the hell out, and then I blinked. In the split second that my eyes were shut, there was a sound of mad scrambling followed by a sickeningly heavy weight falling against my chest. It was on top of me, its bulging eyes locked onto mine, mere inches from my face. My heart hammered furiously for the remainder of that night and well into the morning. The spider stayed as motionless as I did. Apart from the constant oh shit, oh shit, oh shit running through my mind, I only had two unique thoughts the entire time. There was the point that I very nearly broke, and actually considering knocking the beast away and making a run for it, but knowing full well it would probably have just killed me with those vicious fangs. I couldn't go through with it. I also came to the realization that this had to be the same creature I had stepped on earlier that day. In fact, I was certain of it. It took me an embarrassing long time to snap to it, but then my mind wasn't exactly at peak performance just then. I'd killed it, and this was its insane idea of revenge. Lord knows how it returned to life. Hours after the torment had begun, when the sun had finally risen, the thing finally zipped away in an instant, disappearing through the open door. It was a while before I felt able to move again, and even longer until the torrent of tears finally stopped. Later that same morning, I received some troubling news. Apparently, my neighbor Todd had been taken to the hospital during the early hours of the morning. His wife had awoken to the sounds of his sobbing. When she had turned on the lights, she had been horror-struck to find that her husband's eyes were missing, with dark empty pits in their place. I can only imagine what it must feel like to open your eyes but see nothing. That poor guy. I have an appointment with a therapist tonight. I'll be paying through the nose for him to convince me that this shit didn't happen. Money well spent if you ask me. So here's my advice to you. If anyone ever needs you to kill a spider, then by all means, rid of the world of as many as you can. You'd be doing many of us a huge favor. Trust me, but for your own sake, you might want to count its leg before you do. Daddy, I had a bad dream. You blink your eyes and pull yourself up on your elbows. Your clock glows red in the darkness. It is 3:32 a.m. Do you want to climb into bed and tell me about it? No, Daddy. The oddness of the situation wakes you up more fully. You can barely make out your daughter's pale form in the darkness of your room. Why not, sweetie? Because in my dream, when I told you about the dream, the thing wearing mommy's skin sat up. For a moment, you feel paralyzed. You cannot take your eyes off your daughter. The covers behind you begin to shift. Into our town the hangman came, smelling of gold and blood and flame, and he paced our bricks with a diffident air, and built his frame on the courthouse square. The scaffold stood by the courthouse side, only as wide as the door was wide. A frame as tall or a little more than the capping sill of the courthouse door, and we wondered, whenever we had the time, who the criminal, what the crime. That hangman judged with the yellow twist of knotted hemp in his busy fist, and innocent though we were, with dread, we passed those eyes of buckshot lead, till one cried, "Hangman, who is he, for whom you raised the gallows tree?" Then a twinkle grew in his buckshot eye, and he gave us a riddle instead of a reply. "He who serves me best," said he, "shall earn the rope on the gallows tree." And he stepped down and laid his hand on a man who came from another land, and we breathed again for another's grief. At the hangman's hand was our relief, and the gallows frame on the courthouse lawn by tomorrow's sun would be struck and gone. So we gave him way, and no one spoke, out of respect for his hangman's cloak. The next day's sun looked mildly down on roof and street in our quiet town, and stark and black in morning air, the gallows tree on the courthouse square. And the hangman stood at his usual stand, with the yellow hemp in his busy hand, with his buckshot eye and his jaw like a pike, and his air so knowing and businesslike. And we cried, "Hangman, have you not done yesterday with the alien one?" Then we fell silent and stood amazed. Oh, not for him was the gallows raised. He laughed a laugh as he looked at us. "Did you think I'd gone to all this fuss to hang one man? That's a thing I do, to stretch the rope when the rope is new." Then one cried, "Murderer," one cried, "Shame," and into our midst the hangman came, to that man's place. "Do you hold," said he, "with him that was meant for the gallows tree?" And he laid his hand on that one's arm, and we shrank back in quick alarm, and we gave him way, and no one spoke, out of fear of his hangman's cloak. That night we saw with dread surprise the hangman's scaffold had grown in size, fed by the blood beneath the shoot. The gallows tree had taken root, now as wide or a little more than the steps that led to the courthouse door, as tall as the writing or nearly as tall, halfway up on the courthouse wall. The third he took, we had all heard tell, was a usurer and an infidel. "And what," said the hangman, "have you to do with the gallows bound, and he a Jew?" And we cried out, "Is this one he who has served you well and faithfully?" The hangman smiled. "It's a clever scheme, to try the strength of the gallows beam. The fourth man's dark, accusing song has scratched out comfort hard and long. And what concern he gave us back? Have you for the doom in the black?" The fifth, the sixth, and we cried again, "Hangman, hangman, is this the man?" "It's a trick," he said, "that we hangmen know, for easing the trap when the trap springs slow." And so we ceased, and asked no more, as the hangman tallied his bloody score, and sun by sun and night by night, the gallows grew to a monstrous height. The wings of the scaffold opened wide, till they covered the square from side to side, and the monster cross beam, looking down, cast its shadow across the town. Then through the town the hangman came, and called in the empty streets my name, and I looked at the gallows, soaring tall, and thought, there is no one left at all for hanging, and so he calls to me to help pull down the gallows tree. And I went out with right good hope to the hangman's tree and the hangman's rope. He smiled at me as I came down to the courthouse square through the silent town, and supple and stretched in his busy hand was the yellow twist of the hempen strand, and he whistled his tune as he tried the trap, and sprang it down with a ready snap, and then with a smile of awful command, he laid his hand upon my hand. "You tricked me, hangman," I shouted then, "that your scaffold was built for other men." "And I no henchman of yours," I cried. "You lied to me, hangman, foully lied." Then a twinkle grew in his buckshot eyes. "Lied to you, tricked you," he said, "not I. For I answered straight and I told you true. The scaffold was raised for none but you. For who has served me more faithfully than you with your coward's hope?" said he. "And where are the others that might have stood side by your side in the common good?" "Dead," I whispered, and amiably. "Murdered," the hangman corrected me. "First the alien, then the Jew. I did no more than you let me do. Beneath the beam that blocked the sky, none had stood so alone as I." And the hangman strapped me, and no voice there cried stay for me in the empty square. Don't take it. It's a miracle and a glory and the greatest thing to ever happen, so they say, and it will probably become the law soon that you have to take it. They'll have you swallow a little capsule when you're still a baby, probably at the same time you're getting your inoculations. The piece of the thing in there weighs only a few grams and will be plucked out of a little pool that will probably be installed in every hospital soon. These couple grams are more than enough for it to happen. Sure, you'll never get cancer. You'll live until 150. You'll have stronger bones and a more resilient immune system. You'll probably never need glasses or a hearing aid. If you lose something small like a finger, in half a year, you'll have it back. If you lose a whole arm in 2 years, you'll have it back with nearly full functionality. It's the sort of miracle that's believable enough to catch on. It won't solve all our problems, and it'll even create a few more, like overpopulation, like we never saw coming. But it works, and it's cheap, and it's plentiful, and that's all we need. Sure, they can't quite explain how the thing actually managed to rewrite our genetic code after we swallow a few grams, but they promise the answers will come someday, and that there are no ill side effects. It's from a previously unknown variety of starfish, but they won't even tell you that on the news. I think the story right now is that it's something they are growing artificially. These starfish live in the deepest, darkest places in the ocean, and they aren't very big or interesting looking. Honestly, we've probably seen them down there before 1,000 times and looked them over. It's just so happened that prick with the show about eating weird foods got a hold of one, God knows how, and thought it was a different kind of starfish and a part of it, and a year later, he had that foot he lost back. I'm sure they tore apart his house and tested gallons of his blood and interrogated everybody he ever spoke to, but somehow, they figured out just when the regeneration happened and eventually found the fucking thing. It had been alive when he ate one of its arms, and I guess he took a pity on it and let the thing live in a tank in his house. Well, this led to that, and eventually they brought up a ton of the suckers. But here's the thing. Think about our technology and innovations. Think about what they're for. Mostly it's to keep us alive longer, make us healthier, help us communicate better. What if as a race we'd already had the ability to communicate via thought? What if we were naturally incredibly hardy and long-lived? What if we started out having everything we needed without having to do a bit of work? Our goals would turn to keeping our world the way it was and simply enjoying things, with a mind so powerful it can transmit and receive thoughts with no effort. It stands to reason other amazing things are possible too, with that mind staying completely intact even the smallest sliver of the creature. One has to wonder just what else that mind can do. So now, here's a question. If you'd survive all this time just sitting around on the bottom of the ocean with this incredible intellect, how would you amuse yourself? What if that mind could wander and roam freely, if it could just find something to carry it? What if, as a race, we made ourselves the bottom of the food chain just to ensure we'd constantly be taken into new creatures and be allowed to see the world through their eyes? Is it really just such a leap to think such powerful minds could overtake smaller, lesser ones? No. Nor is it unusual to think that if such a race of powerful minds was endangered, they would use the ability to dominate other minds and defend themselves. that they'd patiently wait until their enemies devoured them, then simply displace the minds of those enemies and solve the conflict. I don't think it's crazy at all, and I don't think it's crazy that there's suddenly a lot more war all over the world. A lot of research put into birth control and the accidental release of that superbug that makes men sterile. We should be enjoying world peace, but instead we're killing each other faster than ever before. Maybe they're not even threatened. Maybe we're just a game to them. Maybe we're the 100th race of beings these things have done this to. All I know is they don't turn you into some zombie from a cheesy old sci-fi flick. They let you think you're still in control. That what they want you to do is actually what you want to do. It all seems so natural, so right. Then, when we're in World War III, the only thing the bombs won't scorch clean is the floor of the ocean. Don't ask me how I know all of this, but don't take that pill.